affects asylum. So as you know, what is asylum? So let's start from what asylum is first. So asylum is basically a procedure to which you can enter the US if you fear persecution in your home country, right? If you fear persecution in your home country, and that persecution, the threat or the abuse, it came as a result of you being a member of a protected class. So this protected class typically is based on your nationality, based on your religious belief, based on your political opinion. If you belong to a certain social group, it can be gender. So if you fear persecution because you are in one of those protected classes, and the government isn't doing anything to protect you. So the United States has long held that this is one of the tenets that the country is built on, that it stands on as their humanitarian duty to the world as a superpower. So there is a procedure. So typically people would go to the southern border, or they enter the country legally, but you have to file it within 1 year of being in the country. If you're trying to enter at the border, which is an entry which typically would be uninspected, you would have to go through a credible fear. So the problems that has been happening is, since COVID, there was something called Title 42. So Title 42 was implemented by the Trump administration, basically to reduce the number of people that were coming in at the border, right? So obviously, if you're living in the United States and you watch any type of news, there is the news going around that there is a huge border crisis, which there is. You have thousands and thousands and thousands of people at the US border. So what does that do? It overwhelms the agencies that protect the border, right? So now, a lot of times now they're letting in a lot of immigrants, the good ones, and also unfortunately the bad ones, because they don't have enough manpower or procedures to really assess the type of immigrant that they're letting in. So now what President Biden has done, and some people may politically say it's timely, based on the election being in November and some months away. So let's jump into it. What are the changes, right? So the first major change that will affect a lot of people is that there's a transit ban. So no, you cannot transit across another country, right, and then come to the border and apply for asylum, right? The only way you can do that is if you previously filed for asylum in another country and you got denied. So what does that mean in simple? So say for instance you left from Colombia, or you left from Jamaica, and you crossed through Mexico, right? And you're at the southern border and you're trying to apply for asylum, you will not be eligible at this time unless you had filed for asylum in Mexico, because you transited through Mexico. So you would have had to apply for asylum in Mexico and got denied, and that's the way that you will be able to now apply at the southern border, right? So basically they're also using numbers, right? So currently, the current numbers of migrants being held on a daily basis is 4,500, right? It's somewhere between 2,500 and 4,500 on a weekly basis. So this new bill, well, this new law will stay in effect until those numbers drop to 1,500, right? So there are exceptions, right? So you can still apply, but there are exceptions, right? There are exceptions. The exceptions are if it's an accompanied minor. So if it's a minor that's by themselves, this law does not affect them. If you have obvious signs of you needing medical attention, or some type of medical emergency, this does not affect you. You can apply, right? So those are the two main things that this law, it does not affect this set of people. So children that are by themselves, if you have some type of medical issue going on, or if you have a legitimate fear and threat of returning to your home country, well then, and you can corroborate it, well, you are an exception. So what's the major difference with this law, right? The major difference is no, there's no significantly more screening. So if you are afforded the ability to now come to the southern border and apply for asylum, you will be screened significantly more stringent than in previous times, because what they're going to be looking for, so if you've had a previous arrest, if you've had any type of arrest that involves violence, if you were determined to have been somebody that is human trafficking or smuggling or involved in terrorist activities, you will be definitely sent back and have some type of bar from entry and force removal. So those are the people who they're really trying to keep out of the country. So it is. So some are saying that no, there is no presumption of ineligibility for asylum. So basically what that means is no, because the border is overwhelmed, because the numbers are 2,500 to 4,500 a day, as long as it stays at those numbers, this law is now in effect. So it will affect you if you're coming from another country such as Colombia, Venezuela, and you're crossing through Mexico. You no longer can do that unless you are in one of the exceptions. So if you're coming from Jamaica and you're crossing through Mexico, you will have to now show that you applied for asylum in Mexico and you got denied, right? Or you can go on the CBP One app and apply for a interview. So I know that's a difficult process in itself, but that is one way that this law will not affect you. So those are the major changes right now. It's the intention of this law is so that people, is so that the numbers of people who are now flooding to the border, that will go down, right? So how do I think that it will be implemented? Yes, they say that they're going to try to, because the numbers are between 2,500 to 4,500 people daily, and it must come down to 1,500. But there are exceptions. I think that, they're talking about increasing screening, but I think they're underplaying it. It's significantly going to be harder, significantly. I feel personally that even if they can prove that there is a threat, they may be turned back, right? Because there is not a direct intention to get those numbers down. Is it wrong? Is it right? It depends on which side of the aisle you stand. Some people say that, well, this is going to encourage more migrants who want to come here to take more, more difficult and dangerous paths to try to come here. I think that no, the people who are smuggling people here, the people who are doing the human trafficking, no, they're going to be charging people more money. No, they're going to go through more dangerous roads to try to get here. On the other hand, it's definitely needed. It's definitely needed because now, if you have the borders wide open, then people, both the good and the bad, they're going to try to come and there has to be some type of structure. There has to be some type of restrictions. So that is the gist of it. I think I got most of it right now. So again, with the new law under 212A, 212F and 215A of the Immigration Act, President Biden, he has implemented an executive order which significantly restricts asylum, right? It significantly restricts it, and I will say it again, it significantly restricts asylum in the sense that no, you will be presumed ineligible to apply for asylum at the southern border. So there's a presumption. So how do you overcome that presumption of ineligibility? Well, one, you cannot be a person that has crossed through one country to get to the border without having applied for asylum there, right? The next thing is it doesn't apply to you if you're an unaccompanied minor or if you have a verifiable medical issue, right? Or if you have a legitimate threat. So what is the threat that they will look at right now is if you are a victim of rape, if you are a victim of kidnapping, if you are a victim of human trafficking, then they will still take you because again, that is one of the United States, what they like to call their responsibility, their humanitarian responsibility to the world, right? So who are they trying to keep out, right? They will be doing extra screening, significantly more screening to see if there is a threat, right? So now people who are applying, if you have any type of convictions or if you're on any type of watch list, which I think these are the people who definitely needs to be kept out. I mean, if you have been arrested or charged and convicted for some type of serious crime, or if you're a habitual criminal, I mean, you definitely should be into the country over somebody who has a legitimate reason for wanting to file asylum, right? So these are the changes. I do believe it will definitely keep out more people, right? Especially while the numbers are between 2,500 and 4,500 people a day. I definitely think that it will, they are going to rapidly turn away people unless they can immediately tell that you fit into one of those exceptions. All right, so again, I don't want people to hear the message and say, oh no, I cannot file for asylum at the southern border. Yes, you can. Yes, you can file, but you would have to fall into one of these narrow exceptions. If you don't fall into the narrow exceptions, meaning if you are a child by yourself, if you are a victim of human trafficking, rape, kidnapping, right, or a legitimate fear of persecution in your home country, you will be allowed to apply, but there's going to be significantly more screening, right? The last time the numbers of migrants at the border per day was at 1,500 people per day was in 2020 during the height of COVID. Now we're in 2024 and it's still double, triple that number. So that is it for right now in terms of the major changes, and it went into effect at 12 midnight yesterday. Well, this morning. So time for some questions. Let's see where we're at. All right, let's go with TikTok. What's going on TikTok? How many people do we have?
We have currently 100 people here on TikTok.
All right, let's go TikTok.
I have in here the first question. Can you get a green card after an annulment?
No.
Okay.
That's the short answer. The short answer is no. Somebody asked if you can get a green card after annulment. So I'm assuming the person is saying, you know, if they got married and the marriage didn't work out, can they get can they file a VAWA? No, because the marriage was annulled, so that means the marriage was not real to begin with. Well, had flaws in it to begin with.
Okay, I'm married and my husband is in jail. Can I still do my citizenship?
That's a question that we need a consultation, because they would want to see, I mean, yes, if you're, how long has your husband been in jail? Is there regular contact? Is there regular visits? Is it still a bona fide marriage? And do you have evidence to show that it is a bona fide marriage? That's what you're going to have to prove.
Can I file for my stepmom in Jamaica?
You can file for your stepmom if you got married, if your stepmom and dad got married before you turned 18.
What about the border people who go through the border?
So the question is, what about the border people that go through the border? So I'm assuming they're asking, all right, does this new law affect the border people that try to go to the border? So if you're going directly and applying, it will affect you, right? You go through the extra screening or you'll be turned back. But again, you have people who go through the border undetected. So it's a double-edged sword, because now you're going to have more people who are going to try to go through more dangerous means to try to go undetected.
If your asylum was granted, how long can it take to get your travel documents?
It can take, if your asylum was granted, how long does it take to get your I-131 travel parole approved? It can take, I would say, anywhere from, a year and a half to 2 years.
Every defended false claim of citizenship case, is it a deportation?
Most of the times.
Someone entered the US asking for asylum. They've been here a week. Should they file for I-589?
Yes, if you've entered the US through the border, want to apply.
It is possible to relocate from Nassau to US. I'm a mother of 4 and a wife.
Yes, you can, but you definitely have to determine what's your eligibility for certain type of legal immigration.
Okay. Hey Saku, looking great. Go Gators.
Go Gators.
Could have sworn I saw you in Jamaica last week.
You should have said hi.
Okay, it says for extension of stay, does USCIS normally send a notice with instructions through email or mail?
They usually send both.
Okay.
All right. Let me jump on IG to see what's going on here in terms of the questions. All right. What if you receive an email from USCIS that you are now inadmissible, but you are in the US? Can that person receive a green card? Yes, you can still receive a green card, but you would definitely have to file a waiver, but we'd also need to know what triggered your inadmissibility. What if you overstayed your H-2B visa and paying tax? How can the person get a status? So what people need to understand, you paying taxes in the US, it is definitely something that is really good, but you paying taxes will not be the sole thing that will get you your status, your immigration status. An H-2B person, the good thing is that you entered legally, but you're still going to have to find a relief, such as having a US citizen child that is 21 years or older, or getting married to a US citizen, or having a petition but leaving the country and getting a waiver filed on your behalf. All right, here's a question. What if you come through the border? Okay, here's an asylum question. What if you came through the border and got hurt and they took you to the hospital and discharged you without documentation? Well, you should have gotten some documentation, but if you're saying that you didn't and you got discharged, I would definitely file for asylum right away if you're eligible, but that definitely warrants a consultation. All right. With your advanced parole card, can you use that to travel? Yes, you can use your advanced parole card to travel. All right, let me see some more questions. If a child of an immigrant gets approved for their green card, and if they want to start school, do they have to pay out of pocket if the green card didn't come in the mail? So I mean, if you're approved for a green card, you should have some type of documentation, or you can get an I-550 stamp in your passport. I mean, and I'm assuming, now you're asking, yes, you can apply for student loans versus paying out of pocket, right? Because you still have the residency status. So the card itself, I mean, that's just a tangible, but to start school and to receive benefits to go to school, you can always get that I-550 stamp or use that letter that says that you are now a US resident. All right, let's see the questions. If you're a student athlete and you're out of status after being denied for a work permit, how do you go about regaining status? Well, to regain status, you're going to have to either have some type of petition, right? Whether it is from a U.S. citizen husband or wife, or a U.S. citizen. Well, I don't think you have a U.S. citizen child that's 21. So there that side, or you'd have to get a petition from an employer, but you'd have to leave the country and have a waiver filed. So your options are significantly limited once you go out of status. All right, let's see what's on YouTube.
Okay, so YouTube says,
Yes.
if you hired a lawyer for permanent residence and the name on the documents were spelled correctly when it comes back, do I have to pay the lawyer again to get it corrected? And how do you go about it?
So I mean, it's you can just contact USCIS and just say that the information is incorrect and you submit that documentation. But a lot of times you'll have to pay for the actual green card again. I mean, if it was an error on the USCIS part, sometimes it's done for free. So I mean, if it was the attorney's error, I mean, it happens, right? I mean, that has happened in my office before, and if it's an error on our side, we will go ahead and take care of that for the client. But if it's an error on the client side, like they didn't complete the documentation correctly or submit the right information, well, then they would pay for it. Or if it's USCIS, well, they would, I mean, we'd have to go through those channels to get that fixed.
Okay, that's the only one for now.
All right.
How long does an I-130 take to approve through consular processing if my wife is an American citizen?
How long does it take consular processing for an I-130 to be approved? It can take anywhere from 8 to 18 months.
Thank you.
Mhm.
If you came through the border and you granted work permit to work, can you travel to Puerto Rico?
So this person is asking, if you came to the U.S. border and you were granted your I-765 work authorization, can you travel? No, you can't travel. No, you can travel to Puerto Rico because it's not outside of the it's not considered outside of the U.S. because Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. So you can travel within the U.S. As long as you have a valid ID. All right, so only a couple more questions. Again, today's live was just to really address the new asylum changes that was implemented this morning at 12 a.m. By President Biden, where there's no presumption that you are ineligible for asylum, right? You will no longer be allowed to transit through one country and without applying for asylum in that country and then apply at the border. There will be significantly more screening, and they will be turning away a lot of people. There will be a lot more expedited removal, and the people who this law does not affect is companies. It does not affect if you legitimately are a victim of, say, human trafficking, rape, or significant persecution in your home country, or having medical issues. You will not be turned back. But outside of that, significantly more screening. The border is overwhelmed right now. It's between 2,500 to 4,500 migrants a day, and this will be in effect for 24 months or until the number goes down to 1,500 per day. All right, thanks everybody for joining in. You can always contact us at clarklawgroup.com. Once you go on clarklawgroup.com, you can contact us to schedule any type of consultation. Consultations are not free, unfortunately. They are between $100 to $300. Please call for more information. You can also submit a request for your immigration consultation at sclarklaw.com. At sclarklaw on TikTok or on Instagram, or you can call us at 407-295-2138, or go into one of our several offices in Orlando, Panama City Beach, Kingston, Jamaica, and Queens, New York, and Fort Lauderdale. Always a pleasure. Oh, And we have some big news coming up. We will be doing a free immigration summit, right? This is going to be a one of a kind summit. It has never been done before, where my team and I will be going to different cities, and we will be having pretty much like a convention where we'll be discussing hot topics in immigration. And yes, it is free, but you'll be getting information such as how has immigration changed in 2024? How will it affect you if there's a change in government, right? If you're an entrepreneur, business person, or investor, what are some of the things that you can do right now in 2024? And we will be demystifying a lot of the false information about immigration out there. So 2024 summit, we're kicking it off this month. We're going to be in New York, Panama City Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Tennessee, Kingston, and maybe Connecticut. We'll see. We'll do a vote on it. All right. Thank you, everybody.